Hey, good morning. Well, I'm out on a quick spin in between the raindrops. I'm out on the Turner Cyclosis because it's kind of a muddy day. Seems like a good bike for that, don't you think? And it also seems fitting to ride this because today we'll be talking about a frame material that I think you will see more and more and more in the coming days. Titanium. It's not just for dentists anymore. Titanium, a material of dreams for a lot of people when it comes to a bicycle and what it's made from. And there's some good reasons for that. Yeah, there's a little bit of myth, a little misunderstanding on what it is and isn't. But I'm going to give my thoughts on it. After owning it for a few years on a certain type of bike, after riding it recently on a road bike, which is something I had never done before. And as far as the whole dentist thing, if you don't get that, here's the deal. In the old days, titanium, that was a very expensive bicycle if you had a tie frame. And the idea was it was dentists who could afford it to buy something like that. And also, there's a little prestige associated with it, which I think has faded a little bit now with the advent of, S-Works carbon and that type of stuff. Titanium still has a mystique and a draw about it. Well, I'm going to go on my ride here, and we're going to stop. We'll chat about why I think this silver metal is a great choice for the right purpose. Let's go. Now, I've ridden just about every frame material that there is. Haven't been on magnesium or bamboo or wood, but everything else, the main four players: carbon, aluminum, steel, and titanium. And I've enjoyed all of them to one extent or another. Some bikes have been great and some weren't, but it wasn't always because of the material. And see, that's something to keep in mind, because no material by itself is perfect, amazing, or whatever for your bike, because it really depends on how it's used. Any of them can be stiff, any of them can be compliant, etc., etc. However, that said, there are some givens that we have to understand that just do go along with the material. They're kind of built in, if you will. All right, let's get this downhill done so I don't crash holding the camera. I'll be back. So why do I think titanium is poised for increased growth in the market? A true resurgence, if you will. I think we've already seen it starting to happen. Well, I think there are several reasons. The first one is the increasing interest in gravel bikes and adventure bikes. Titanium is a compelling material for a gravel bike or an adventure bike. If you're bike packing, all-roading, etc., the rougher conditions you're going to be using a bicycle in, well, titanium really begins to stand out from the crowd. Why is that? Well, it's very, very hard to hurt titanium. It is very durable. Did you know, for instance, in the 2023 Unbound race there in Kansas, that there were people in the corridor of mud that they went through on that race? They wore completely through the chainstays on their carbon fiber bikes, just like a great grinding wheel. Well, if that had been titanium, it just would have polished it. Now, other materials like metals, such as aluminum and steel, it wouldn't have worn through that either, but it would have removed all the paint, wouldn't it, or powder coat. And so you would have had, at some point, rust or oxidation of the frame. Titanium, it just wouldn't have cared. So if you're going to strap bags on something, if you're going to take it into a place where it's going to get knocked around and get pinged with rocks and stuff, titanium is a very, very smart choice. You might have noticed Silca titanium bottle cages, 3 of them on the Cyclosis. Those dentists, they got nothing on me. Now, the other reason I think we're going to see a bigger piece of the market share for titanium is reduced cost. That whole dentist thing, that was a joke and all, but it wasn't that far from the truth. Because back in the day, a titanium frame, well, that was the world of the custom builder. Early on, companies like, well, there was Lightspeed and Merlin and of course Moots. A lot of those companies are still around. They're still making very, very high-end, beautiful handcrafted bikes. But this Turner Cyclosis, it's handcrafted too. It just happens to be made in another country, in a country that has some of the finest titanium craftsmen and welders in the world. And the material is the same. Now, if I were to put you on this Turner Cyclosis, let you ride it blindfolded, and then do the same thing for a custom frame that cost 3 times as much, 2 things would happen. You'd crash. But before that, could you tell a difference? I'd be surprised if you could, honestly. Another thing that's come along to take the cost down is technology. Like, for instance, 3D printed titanium dropouts. The bits and pieces that make a frame all go together well, that look great, and are so much cheaper to produce than if you tried to machine that out of titanium. I think that the gravel and adventure world is really an amazing place for a titanium frame. I'm not so sure about the road. It's going to have the same impact there. We're seeing amazing bikes like the Blackheart, their new road bike. It's got road race geometry on it. It's got internal routing, drop seat stays. Man, that thing is sex on wheels. It has a good looking little bike. And what I've heard, it's pretty amazing to ride. But you know, it's up against carbon titanium in a road bike world. I don't know, that's a tough nut to crack. Titanium will always, should say carbon will always be lighter and stiffer, and you can shape it and make it aerodynamic and on and on. No, I think carbon still be king for road. But you know, that RD I rode recently, that was a compelling bike to ride, and that came within a couple chin whiskers of being as good on the road as my Time 80HX, and that is a $4,000 carbon frame, so there is that. Isn't this cool? This is old rebar from the 1920s when this old road was made, kind of coming out of the concrete. This is the original curb barrier for the road. Well, that's the top of this ride for today. The weather's coming in on me and I gotta get down before I get wet. It's just my thoughts a little bit on titanium, why I think it deserves a really good look, especially for gravel, adventure, and quite possibly even for road. All right, you guys, you know what I always say, have a great week and weekend, and go ride your bikes. Take care. I think I found the rain. Well, I did want to find out how this jacket was in a bit of rain. Woo! All right.